Yeah.
It's a good question that you're bringing up because, um, for I guess yeah, even though I'm not a journalist by training, I still think it's important
Yeah.
for the public to know what we're doing,
Yeah.
and so I really, I take it seriously, all
Mhm.
the social media content that we put out, and I think it's really important to raise awareness because there's not very many organizations doing it.
Yeah.
And in Latin America, um, there's depending on what country, it can be dangerous to speak out on different topics.
Yeah.
So I haven't heard of anything going terribly wrong in Mexico
Mhm.
recently, but I know in Honduras
Mhm.
there was a environmental indigenous activist who was recently killed, and that just happened a few weeks ago. Her name was Berta Caceres,
Wow.
and that was in Honduras.
Mhm.
And she didn't specifically speak out for language rights, but
Mhm.
she was very, very big in the environmental rights.
Mhm.
And she was indigenous from Honduras, and lots of people knew her. I didn't know her personally, but I have a good friend in Canada who knew her and who worked
Mhm.
with her in Honduras. And so that, she was like assassinated in her house, which is like
Wow.
absolutely horrible.
Oh my
And
goodness.
that's the kind of thing that's been happening in Honduras, which makes it dangerous to work on uh, environmental issues in Honduras. And I
Yeah.
noticed that in Peru also.
Mhm.
Um, I've only done one environmental media project in Peru, and I found it pretty sketchy.
Yeah.
So uh, it's a question of where does the power lie?
Yeah.
The power is in the hands of the big corporations who have a lot at stake. With extracting natural resources throughout Latin America.
Yeah.
So if yeah, on the side of really talking about land rights,
Mhm.
territory claims, environmental issues, it can be dangerous. On the side of just focusing on cultural and linguistic rights,
Yeah.
it's a lot less dangerous
Mhm.
because you're not specifically talking about um, you know money or stocks and
Yeah.
stakeholders, and
Yeah.
you're talking about cultural stakeholders and language rights and visibility, so it's more of a human rights issue.
Mhm.
And but there is a lot of overlap. I
Yeah.
meet a lot of people in Paraguay and Chile and Peru and Mexico too, who they know that language rights is ultimately linked to land rights and environmental rights. There's really no separation when it comes down to like looking at the legacy of colonialism and how it's
Mhm.
impacted indigenous people. Like
Yeah.
it's all interconnected.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot less dangerous to fight for language rights than it is for for land rights.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
that's for sure.
But
Yeah.
definitely dangerous for still.
Well, it just depends
It
on the
depends on the
country and who's in
yeah.
charge. Like Honduras, like that would be scary to be
Yeah.
working there on environment issues right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and so tell me about the different projects that you guys do. I know that you're working on the follow-up article, but what are some different things you guys do, and like how do you guys orchestrate, who's going to do what, um,
Hmm.
what does that look like? Like,
Yes. So mostly we focus on science.
mm-hmm,
So my boss, Greg Anderson, he's a linguist, and he does an incredible amount of field work all over the world. India, Papua New Guinea,
wow.
Zimbabwe, like every couple months he's going somewhere else. So really his day to day looks like um, working with a lot of different speakers, doing a
Mm-hmm,
lot of recordings, editing, and then analyzing those recordings for patterns in the verbs, understanding the grammar of those languages, everything that has to do with linguistics. So, syntax, semantics, phonology, phonetics, all of these things take years to understand when you're
yeah.
studying a language. So, the main output that we do is focused around the science,
Mm-hmm,
but our so that's in terms of the scientific research that we do, it's geared towards scientific journals and publications of that kind. But we also publish a talking dictionary for most of the languages we've worked on.
mm-hmm,
Um, so the talking dictionary is much more. It's can be used by scientists, but also anybody like
okay.
students,
Yeah.
educators. young people, old, journalists, anybody,
Hmm.
anyone can use it. And so we have a lot of talking dictionaries, and we spend a lot of time working on those. And so what they are is basically a regular dictionary, but it's
Yeah.
all online, and each word has the recording of the word or the phrase
Oh wow.
next to
Okay.
it, so
Yeah.
that you can hear the words as they're correctly pronounced.
Oh, that's really
And
cool.
it's a really good way to conserve the language, like
Yeah.
conserve the correct pronunciation as it was at that time in history.
Wow.
So that you can go to talkingdictionary.org and you can see all of our talking dictionaries there.
Yeah, I was gonna say like how many different